appraiser extraordinaire Donald Osborne. We have three cars that I think qualify for wolves in sheep's clothing. That means underneath the skin, there's a lot of things happening.
They're not quite the quiet characters they might seem to be.
Well, let's see what we have here. We have a 63 Studebaker Lark R2. We have the 1939 Delahaye. And, of course, the 1994 Mercedes-Benz 500E. Tell us about this Delahaye.
This is a Delahaye Type 165 with bodywork by Figoni Falaski. They only made two of these cars, Jay.
And it has so many unusual features. The windshield cranks down. You have the pre-selector gearbox, which works as sort of a semi-automatic.
Semi-automatic, electromagnetic, and...
wow.
That's a 4-cam alloy V12, a detuned version of the engine that powered the Delahaye Type 145 Grand Prix car, the so-called million franc car.
Right.
Back in the late 30s, the German manufacturers ruled the roost in Grand Prix racing, and the French government said, we will give 1,000,000 francs, which was about $28,000 then, which is not chicken feed, to a manufacturer and a driver who can beat the Germans.
And did it do it?
It did.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they weren't very happy. It was not only did a French car beat them, but the driver was Jewish.
Yeah,
so,
and I think they invaded right after that. World War II could have been avoided if they just built a crappy car.
Exactly.
Now, this one appears to be the biggest wolf in sheep's clothing. You know, it just looks like the standard Mercedes from the early 90s.
It does, except there are little subtle cues. The little flaring of the front fender there, and the slightly larger tires. These were built by Porsche for Mercedes. It was a little arrangement that they made. The Porsche factory, fortunately at the time, was going through a little bit of a tough patch, and they needed production. And so Mercedes farmed this out to them, a high-performance version of the car. This is a sedan, fits 4 people quite comfortably, air conditioning, wonderful AM/FM radio, all the creature comforts you'd expect in a Mercedes sedan, 0 to 60 in under 6 seconds.
Yeah, it's pretty quick for the early 90s.
Absolutely.
Now, let's go over to the Studebaker.
This particular example is a very rare car. Of the 800 Lark convertibles, they only made 43 Lark Daytonas, which is the top of the line with the special trim in the R2 configuration. So this is the rare of the rare.
I have a soft spot for this car here. This is probably the most misunderstood car of the three. This was a 289 supercharged with a 4-speed gearbox. It was really a fast car, wasn't it?
289 cubic inches, 289 horsepower, that magic 1 horsepower per cubic inch, had a top speed of somewhere around 130 miles per hour.
Which was a lot back in 1963.
Absolutely.
I mean, you had the Falcon Sprint with the 260. That got huge publicity. You had the Corvair. None of them could match this, yet nobody seemed to know about this car. It's almost like Studebaker didn't want people to know.
Well, Studebaker wanted everyone to know about this car. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a case of the song of the swan. This is the very end of Studebaker. They stopped production in the U.S. after this year. In '64, they just went to Canada for production, and then they were gone a couple of years after that.
And what is the Song of the Swan? I don't even know what that is. What does that mean?
The Song of the Swan.
You know, I realize I shouldn't ask the question.
Swans only sing right before they die.
Oh.
They're completely silent for their entire lives. They sing once, and then they die.
Wow.
I don't want to be a swan because I sing far too much. But
wow. So let's see. Our job is to figure out which one of these has appreciated the most. I got to go with the Daytona Lark. I mean, this is a car I remember as a kid, and I always remember reading about it and go, why aren't more people buying it? I don't get it.
Well, Jay.
This and more after a brief message from our sponsors.
American Motors Gremlin is a little economy car that doesn't economize on the engine because it's the only one with 6 cylinders, not 4.
Oh, no, you don't.
So while the Gremlin is small enough to get you into tight spots,
I didn't realize.
it's powerful enough to get you out of them. And only American Motors makes this promise. The buyer protection plan backs every 73 car we build, and we'll see that our dealers back that promise. AMC Gremlin.
To check out more cool cars, go to jlenosgarage.cnbcprime.com. And we're back with Donald Osborne.
Our job is to figure out which one of these has appreciated the most. We have the 63 Studebaker Lark R2. We have the 1939 Delahaye. And, of course, the 1994 Mercedes-Benz 500E.
Well, Jay, a Lark convertible Daytona about 5 years ago was about $20,000. A really terrific one today would be about $70,000.
Wow.
However, this is one of 43 Daytona R2 convertibles. This one would be considerably more if you could ever induce the owner to sell.
Okay.
The Delahaye, a similarly designed Type 135, about 5 years ago would be about $3.5 million, and one recently sold for $6.6 million.
Okay.
And finally, the Mercedes 500E.
Right.
5 years ago, you could have bought one of those cars for about $10,000. Today, the best of those would cost you at least $50,000.
Okay.
A 400% improvement in 5 years.
Wow. So the Mercedes is the winner.
The Mercedes is the winner.
I still like the Lark. I'm sorry.
Hark, hark, the lark.